In the 41st millennium, where a million worlds burn in endless war, existence for most is suffering. But for an orc, life is glorious. Life is purpose. Life is the satisfying clank of metal on metal, the beautiful boom of a freshly built shooter, and the pure joy of crumpin' gits what need crumpin'. I am Grocket, mech boy of war boss Skullcracker's Wah, and this is my story. The story of what it's like to live with me hands in oil, me head full of know-whats, and me heart beatin' to the rhythm of Daka. If you're ready to dive into the greenskin perspective, to see the 41st millennium through orky eyes, where violence is art and scrap is treasure, then smash that subscribe button. The Wah protects those who witness the glory of orc ingenuity. I don't remember being born, not really. Orcs don't have moms or dads like them weak humies. We grow from spores, popping up from the ground like fungus after a good rain. Except the rain is usually blood and the ground is usually a battlefield. My first real memory is waking up in a pile of scrap metal on the outskirts of War Boss Skullcracker's settlement on the world we called Rustgut Prime. Humies called it something boring like Pharaoh 7th, but who cares what they think? I was small then, a runt, barely chest high to a proper boy, with skin still a sickly light green instead of the deep, healthy tone of a grown orc. But even then, even as a little git, I knew things. When I looked at a broken shooter lying in the scrap pile, I could see how it worked. I could see where the bullet went, how the trigger connected to the firing pin, why the barrel had exploded. Shoddy grot work, obviously. My hands moved before my brain caught up, and within minutes, I had the shooter stripped down, the faulty parts removed, and, using a bit of wire and a spring from a nearby Imperial servo skull, I had it working again. A bigger boy saw me do it. Grotfawing his name was. Nasty git with a jaw full of metal teeth and fists like wrecking balls. He grabbed me by the scruff of my neck, lifted me up, and snarled, "What you doing with that, runt?" I held up the shooter, proud as anything. Fixed it, didn't I? He stared at it, then at me. Then he laughed, a deep booming sound that made my bones rattle. "You's a mech, you is. War boss is gonna wanna see you." That's how I met Skullcracker. He was massive even then, before he got all his fancy bionics and power claw upgrades. Stood maybe 10 feet tall, muscles like iron, and a presence that made even the biggest knobs shut their gobs when he walked past. He looked down at me, this tiny runt holding a patched together shooter, and grunted, "Can you make it shooter more?" I blinked. More? More Daka, more bullets, more boom. I looked at the shooter, then at the scrap pile around me, then back at Skullcracker. An idea, bright and shiny, like a fresh piece of scrap, formed in my head. "Yeah," I said. "Yeah, I can make it shooter more." And I did. Took me 3 days, working non-stop in the corner of the settlement scrapyard. I bolted on an extra barrel, rigged up a secondary ammo feed using parts from a broken autocannon, and reinforced the grip so it wouldn't tear apart when fired. When I test-fired it, the recoil nearly broke my shoulder and the noise made my ears ring for hours. But by Gork and Mork, it fired twice as many bullets as before. Skullcracker loved it, gave me a solid punch to the head, high praise among orcs, and declared me his personal mech. From that moment on, I had a place. I had a purpose. I had access to all the scrap, all the loot, all the broken gubbins that came back from raids, and I had the most important thing any mech could ask for: problems to solve. See, being an orc mech ain't like being one of them Humie tech priests with their fancy robes and incense and praying to machines. We don't need to worship technology. We understand it. It's in our blood, our bones, our very DNA. though I don't know what DNA means, just that the Humies say it a lot before we crump them. When I look at a pile of scrap, I see possibilities. That broken tank trad? Perfect for a truck suspension. That shattered power cell? Strip out the core, rewire it, and you've got enough juice to run a force field. That pile of Imperial Guard las guns? Melt them down, reforge the metal, and you've got armor plating for a death dread. The other mechs in Skullcracker's WAD didn't like me at first. I was young, I was small, and I had the war boss's favor. Big Mech Rotgut, an ancient scarred veteran with more cybernetics than flesh, especially hated me. He'd accidentally knock over my work, steal my best bits of scrap, or send grots to sabotage my projects. But I learned quick. In Orc Society, you earn respect through results. So I worked harder. I built better. I made shooters that never jammed, choppers that could cut through tank armor, and a custom mega blaster for one of the knobs that exploded so beautifully it took out an entire squad of Humy soldiers and left a crater you could park a truck in. Gradually, the other mechs stopped seeing me as competition and started seeing me as, well, still competition, but the useful kind. We'd trade parts, share ideas, usually by yelling at each other, and occasionally team up on big projects. Rotgut even gave me a grudging nod once when I fixed his favorite custom force field generator after a Bad Moon Knob's plasma gun overloaded and fried half the circuits. But the best part, the absolute best part of being a mech is when you see your creation in action. When a boy charges into battle with a shooter you built, spraying DACA into the enemy, and you hear him laugh with pure joy as the gun roars in his hands. When a truck you patched together from 3 wrecks and a prayer to Mork tears across the battlefield, its engines scream in defiance. When a death dread you welded stumps forward, its massive claws crushing everything in its path, and you think, yeah, I made that. That's what it means to be a mech, where artists, engineers, and madmen all rolled into one green, muscular package. And as I stood in my corner of the scrapyard that first year, covered in oil and grease, surrounded by half-built projects and piles of salvage, I knew one thing for certain. This was gonna be a good life.
Every day in the scrapyard starts the same way, with noise. Not the organized, peaceful noise of Humy factories with their assembly lines and shift whistles. No, this is proper noise. The beautiful cacophony of metal banging against metal, grots screaming as they haul scrap, boys arguing over who gets the best bits, and somewhere in the distance, the sound of something exploding because some git didn't tighten the right bolts. I love it. My workshop, if you can call it that, is a cleared space in the middle of the scrapyard, marked out by a crude fence made from tank traps and razor wire. It ain't much, but it's mine. I've got workbenches made from flattened Imperial Rhino hulls, tool racks fashioned from old weapon mounts, and a forge built into the gutted remains of a Lehman Rush battle tank. The entire place smells like oil, burned metal, and ozone, the smell of creation. This particular morning, I'm working on something special, a custom shooter for War Boss Skullcracker himself. He wants something that'll make other war bosses jealous, something with more DACA than sense, as he put it. So I'm building him a triple-barreled slugger shooter hybrid with an underslung rocket launcher and a chain blade bayonet. It's beautiful, it's excessive, it's orky. I'm in the middle of welding the third barrel when I hear a voice behind me. Oi, mech, I need me shooter fixed. I don't look up. Put it on the pile. But it's on the pile, I roar, finally turning around. It's Grimtooth, one of the younger boys. He's holding a shooter that looks like it's been through a meat grinder, because it probably has. The barrel's bent at a 45-degree angle, the trigger mechanism is hanging by a wire, and there's what looks like teeth marks on the stock. "What the zog did you do to it?" I ask. Grimtooth shrugs. "Used it as a club when I ran out of bullets. Then a Hume tank ran over it. Then I tried to shoot the tank, and it exploded a bit." I stare at him. He grins back, completely unashamed. "Right," I say, taking the wreckage from him. "This ain't fixable. This is scrap. I'll build you a new one, but it'll cost ya." "Cost me?" Grimtooth's grin fades. "But I fought for the Wa. That should..." "Everything costs something, Git. You want a new shooter? Bring me 3 sets of Imperial lasguns, a box of ammunition, and a servo skull. Do that, and I'll make you a shooter so good you'll never need to use it as a club." Grimtooth grumbles but nods. He knows the rules. In Orc society, everything is barter, trade, and occasionally violence. I watch him stomp off toward the other boys, probably to organize a raid just to get my payment, and I can't help but grin. That's the beauty of being a mech. We are always in demand. I turn back to Skullcracker's weapon, but before I can get back to work, another visitor arrives. This one I recognize immediately by the heavy thunk, thunk, thunk of metal footsteps. Big Mech Rotgut. He's a sight to behold. Where I'm still mostly flesh with a few bionic fingers and a reinforced skull plate, Rotgut is more machine than orc. His left arm is a massive power claw that crackles with energy. His right eye is a targeting lens that whirs and clicks if it focuses, and his lower jaw has been replaced by a hydraulic vice that can crush tank armor. Cables and tubes snake across his body, pumping fluids and electricity through his systems. He's old, ancient by orc standards, and he's survived by being the best mech in the Wa, until I came along anyway. "Grocket," he grunts, his mechanical voice box buzzing with static. "Warboss wants the new truck ready by tomorrow." I blink. "Tomorrow? But I ain't even started on the..." "Tomorrow," he repeats, leaning in close. His breath smells like oil and burnt metal. "You think you're so clever, runt. Let's see if you can actually deliver." He stomps away before I can respond, leaving me staring at the half-finished weapon in my hands. A new truck by tomorrow. That means stripping down at least 2 wrecks, rebuilding the engine, reinforcing the frame, mounting weapons, and making sure it doesn't explode the first time someone hits the accelerator. It's a full week's work compressed into 1 day. I look around my workshop. I look at the piles of scrap. I look at the grots huddled in the corner waiting for orders. Then I grin. "Oi, grots! Get over here! We got work to do!" The next 18 hours are a blur of metal, sweat, and creative violence. I set the grots to work stripping down 2 burned-out trucks, one from our own scrap pile, one looted from a recent raid on a Hume convoy. While they tear apart the wrecks, I focus on the engine. Orc engines are temperamental things. They run on a combination of fuel, hope, and the psychic gestalt field that all orcs generate. If enough orcs believe something will work, it usually does. That's why our technology looks like it shouldn't function, but it does anyway because we know it will. I pull an engine block from the first truck and immediately spot the problem. Cracked cylinder, blown gasket, and something that might be a Hume skull in the intake manifold. I hammer out the skull, patch the crack with a metal plate and some weld, and replace the gasket with a strip of rubberized Imperial tank tread. Then I bolt on a supercharger I salvage from a wrecked orc war track, connect it to the fuel line with some copper tubing, and give it a test crank. The engine roars to life with a sound like a thunderstorm having a fight with an avalanche. Black smoke billows out, the smell of burning fuel fills the air, and the entire engine shakes so hard it nearly tears itself off the mounting bolts. Perfect! While the grots finish welding the frame together, a combination of both truck chassis reinforced with tank armor plating, I mount the weapons. Every truck needs Daka, so I bolt on a big shooter to the passenger side, rig up a rocket launcher on the back, and add a harpoon gun to the front, because it looks cool, and you never know when you'll need the harpoon something. By the time the sun rises, or whatever passes for a sun on this polluted, war-torn world, the truck is finished. It's a beautiful abomination of rust, rivets, and raw power. The frame is asymmetrical, the wheels are 3 different sizes, and the entire thing lists slightly to the left. But when I hit the ignition, it roars like a caged beast ready to kill. Skullcracker arrives with Rotgut in tow. The war boss walks around the truck, inspecting every weld, every bolt, every weapon mount. Rotgut watches me with his mechanical eye, probably hoping I screwed up somewhere. Finally, Skullcracker grunts, "Get in!" I climb into the driver's seat, a salvaged Imperial Guard chair with half the cushion missing. Skullcracker hauls himself into the back, grabbing the big shooter mounted there. Rotgut stays behind, his face unreadable behind all that machinery. "Drive," Skullcracker orders. I slam my foot on the accelerator. The truck lunges forward like a rocket, engine screaming, wheels tearing up the ground. We tear through the settlement at breakneck speed, boys diving out of the way, grots screaming in terror. I take a corner at full speed, and the entire vehicle tilts onto 2 wheels before crashing back down. Skullcracker is laughing, a deep, booming sound of pure joy. He opens fire with the big shooter, spraying bullets into the air just for the fun of it. We roar out into the wasteland beyond the settlement, and I push the truck harder. The engine howls, the frame rattles, and for a beautiful moment, we are flying across the rusted landscape, free and wild and alive. When we finally skid to a stop back at the workshop, Skullcracker jumps out, still grinning. He slaps me on the back so hard I nearly fall over. That's a proper truck grocket, proper! I look over at Rotgut. His mechanical eye is locked on me, and for just a moment I see something in his expression. Not quite respect, but acknowledgement. I've proven myself. Again. As Skullcracker drives off in his new truck, engine roaring, I return to my workshop and finally pick up his custom weapon. Still got work to do. Always got work to do.
The call comes 3 days later, just as I'm putting the finishing touches on Skullcracker's weapon. A horn blares across the settlement. 3 lang blasts followed by 2 short ones. Every orc knows what that means. Warg time! Within minutes, the entire settlement transforms into organised chaos. Boys grab their weapons and pile into trucks. Knobs back orders while straining into their mega armour. Grots scurry everywhere, carrying ammunition boxes and fuel cans. And us mechs, we make sure everything is ready to roll, and more importantly, ready to fight. I grab my toolkit, a massive box welded together from Imperial ammunition containers, and sling it over my shoulder. Inside is everything a mech needs in the field: wrenches, welding torch, spare parts, wire, bolts, and a custom burner I built for emergency repairs, which is mech speak for burning through stuff that's in me way. I also strap on my own shooter, a reliable slugger with extended magazine, and a scope I looted from a Hume sniper rifle. Don't need the scope really, but it looks good. Skullcracker's already in his command truck, the one I built 3 days ago, and is holding his new weapon. The triple-barreled monster gleams in the weak sunlight, all chrome and brutal efficiency. When he sees me approaching, he grins and fires a test burst into the air. The sound is magnificent. 3 barrels firing in sequence, each one spitting out slugs the size of a Humie's fist. The recoil makes even Skullcracker's massive frame shift backward. "Get in, Mac! We going hunting!" I scramble into the back of the truck alongside a handful of boys. The engine roars to life and we tear out of the settlement in a convoy of 15 vehicles, trucks, war bikes and 1 battle wagon that Rotgut built last month. Our target, a Hear Me outpost about 50 kilometers northwest. Intelligence, which for orcs means some get saw it and didn't die, says it's an Imperial Guard supply depot. Lots of guns, lots of ammunition, lots of stuff worth looting. The ride across the wasteland is rough. Rostgut Prime is an ugly world, nothing but rust-coloured dirt, jagged rock formations, and the occasional dead tree that looks like it gave up on life centuries ago. The sky is a perpetual yellow-grey from all the pollution and dust. But to an orc, it's home. It's battleground, scrapyard and proving ground all rolled into one. As we drive, I check over the truck one more time. Engine temperature's good, wheels are holding together, weapons are loaded. But boys around me are singing, some orky war chant about crushing skulls and taking teeth. I join in for a bit because it's good for morale, but mostly I'm thinking about what I'll find at the depot. Humie tech is always interesting. They build things all proper like with manuals and specifications and safety protocols. We just hit stuff with hammers until it works. Both methods get results, but ours is more fun. The outpost appears on the horizon after about an hour driving. It's a standard Imperial Guard fortification. High walls made of rockcrete, guard towers at each corner, razor wire everywhere, and a big gate with an Imperial Acula painted on it. I can see Humie soldiers moving around on the walls, their las guns catching the light. Skullcracker stands up in the truck, raises his new weapon above his head and bellows, "Woog!" Every orc in the convoy roars in response. The sound is primal, terrifying, and absolutely beautiful. Then we charge. The Humies open fire immediately. Las beans streak through the air, flashing red and bright. A few hit the truck's armor plating, leaving scorch marks but doing no real damage. The boy next to me takes a las beam to the shoulder and roars in pain, but he don't stop firing his shooter. That's the thing about orcs. We don't retreat, we don't surrender, and we definitely don't die easy. Skullcracker opens up with his new weapon and it's glorious. All 3 barrels fire at once, sending a storm of bullets into the wall. Rockcrete explodes, chunks of debris rain down, and I see at least 3 Humies get torn apart by the barrage. The underslung rocket launcher fires a moment later and the rocket slams into one of the guard towers. The explosion is big enough that I feel the shockwave from here, and the entire tower collapses in a cloud of dust and fire. It works! It actually works! I'm shouting over the noise, grinning like a mad git. Seeing your creation perform exactly as intended is better than any drug, any drink, any fight. This is purpose. Our truck smashes through the gate, literally just drives straight through it, and suddenly we're inside the compound. Humies are everywhere, running and shooting and yelling orders in their squeaky little voices. I jump out of the truck, burner in one hand, slugger in the other, and get to work. A Hume soldier can't be more than 20 years old, skinny as a grot, levels his las gun at me. I shoot him first. My slugger barks once, the Hume goes down, and I'm already moving to the next target. Combat for a mech ain't about glory or kill counts. That's for the boys. We're here for the loot. I spot what I'm looking for almost immediately. A supply building with munitions stenciled on the side and blocky Hume letters. Perfect. I kick open the door. It's locked, but orc boots don't care about locks, and step inside. It's beautiful. Straight stacked to floor to ceiling, each one stamped with imperial markings. I crack open the nearest one and find lasgun power packs, hundreds of them. Next crate, frag grenades. Next, heavy bolter ammunition. And in the back, covered by a top, I find the real treasure, a heavy plasma gun, still in its original casing. I'm drooling, literally. Plasma tech is rare, it's powerful, it's volatile, and in the right hands, meaning mine, it can be reverse engineered, modified, and turned into something truly spectacular. I'm about to start loading up when I hear a sound behind me. I spin around, banner raised, and find myself face to face with a Hume officer. He's older than the soldiers outside, with grey hair and a scar across his cheek. His uniform is clean, pressed, covered in metals. He's holding a bolt pistol, and it's pointed right at my head. Xenos filth, you'll burn for this heresy! I look at him. I look at his bolt pistol. I look at the plasma gun behind me. Then I grin. Nah, mate, you'll burn! I pull the trigger on my burner, the pilot flame ignites, and a jet of superheated promethium shoots out, engulfing the officer in fire. He screams, high-pitched and agonised, and stumbles backward, dropping his pistol. I don't watch him die, already turning back to the loot. And that's when the building explodes. Not the building I'm in, thank God for that, but one nearby. One of the Hume ammunition bunkers is gone up, probably hit by a rocket or a stray shoot-around. The explosion is massive, sending debris hundreds of feet into the air. Secondary explosions follow as stored ammunition cooks off, each one adding to the chaos. And in the middle of it all, I see Skullcracker. He's standing on top of his truck, firing his weapon into the air, laughing like a maniac. Around him, boys are looting, fighting and celebrating. The Humes are broken, scattered, running for their lives. We've won. I spend the next hour coordinating the salvage operation. Grots are hauling crates into trucks. Boys strip weapons and armour from dead Humes. I personally oversee the loading of the plasma gun, making sure the grots don't drop it or accidentally activate it. By the time we're done, every vehicle is overloaded with loot. Guns, ammunition, armor plating, vehicle parts, even a Hume Sentinel Walker that we're gonna have to drag back on chains. As we drive away from the Bannon outpost, I sit in the back of the truck, surrounded by crates of loot, and I feel satisfied. This is what it means to be part of a warg. This is what it means to be a mech. We don't just build, we take, we adapt, we improve. Every piece of Hume tech we steal becomes Orky tech. Every weapon we loot becomes better in our hands. I pull out the plasma gun and start examining it, already thinking about modifications. Maybe reinforce the cooling system, maybe increase the output.
Maybe add a second barrel. Grimtooth leans over from his seat. You gonna make that thing shoot a more? I grin at him. Oh yeah, much more. Behind us, the Hume outpost burns. Ahead of us, the settlement waits, and in my hands, possibility waits to be unleashed. This is the life of a mech, and it's perfect. Back at the settlement, the celebration lasts for 3 days. Boys drink fungus beer and fight each other for fun. Grots roast squigs over open fires. The war boss distributes teeth, the orc currency, to everyone who fought well. And us mechs, we get first pick of the loot. I drag the plasma gun back to my workshop and spend the first night just studying it. Human plasma technology is fascinating in all the wrong ways. It's over-engineered, fragile, and has about 15 different safety mechanisms designed to prevent it from exploding, which, from an orc perspective, is missing the point entirely. If it can explode, it should explode, just preferably in the direction of the enemy. I strip it down piece by piece, laying out each component on my workbench. The magnetic containment coils, the plasma chamber, the heat sinks, the trigger assembly, all of it designed with human precision and human fear. They build things to not fail. We build things to fail spectacularly. By the second day, I've got a plan. I'm gonna rebuild this plasma gun into something worthy of the wah. Double the output, strip out half the safety features, add a secondary fuel tank for sustained fire, and mount it on a custom frame so it can be wielded by a knob and mega armor. It'll be dangerous, unstable, and absolutely brutal. In other words, perfect. But I'm not the only one with big ideas. On the third day, Big Mech Rotgut summons me to his workshop. His space is twice the size of mine, filled with half-finished projects that would make most mechs weep with envy. There's a partially constructed Kill Crusher Chank in one corner, a Death Dread with one arm missing in another, and hanging from the ceiling by chains is what looks like a teleporter array, probably looted from one of them spiky chaos gits. Rotgut is working on something when I arrive, his mechanical power claw sparking as he welds 2 pieces of armor plating together. He don't look up. "You did good at the raid, Runt. Real good." Now wait, with Rotgut, there's always a but. "But," he continues, shutting off his welder and finally turning to face me, "good ain't enough, not for what's coming." "What's coming?" I ask. Rotgut's mechanical eye whirs as it focuses on me. "Skullcracker wants to take on War Boss Grimskull. You know what that means?" I know exactly what it means. Grimskull runs the biggest WoW on Rust Gut Prime, maybe 3 times the size of ours. His boys are meaner, his knobs are tougher, and his mechs, well, his mechs are the best on the planet. If Skullcracker wants to challenge Grimskull, it's gonna be a fight to the death. Winner takes all the boys, all the loot, all the territory. Loser gets crumped. And to win that fight, Rotgut continues, shutting off his welder and finally turning to face me. "We need something big, something none of the other mechs have ever built before." He gestures toward the center of his workshop, where a massive tarp covers something the size of a truck. "Come here." I approach cautiously. Rotgut grabs the tarp and yanks it off, revealing what's underneath. It's a Stompa, or at least the beginnings of one. For those what don't know, a Stompa is the biggest, baddest war machine an orc can build without accidentally creating a gargant. It stands 30 feet tall, weighs hundreds of tons, and carries enough firepower to level a city block. The frame in front of me is incomplete, just the legs and lower torso, but even in this state, it's impressive. Massive hydraulic pistons for joints, armor plating thick enough to stop tank shells, and feet the size of wart tracks. "You want me to help build this?" I ask, barely able to keep the excitement out of my voice. "Not just help," Rotgut says. "You gonna build the weapons. All of them. Mega cannon, belly gun, defense turrets, close combat weapon, everything. You prove you can build good. Now prove you can build great." This is it. This is the moment every mech dreams of. The chance to work on something legendary. Something that'll be talked about for years. If I pull this off, my name will be known across every WoW on the planet.
And if I fail, well, Rockgut will probably crush me with his power claw and find another mech. I'll do it, I say without hesitation. Rockgut nods, something that might be respect flashing in his mechanical eye. Good, you got 2 months. After that, Skullcracker challenges Grimskull, and this Stomper better be ready to stomp. 2 months, 60 days to build weapons capable of destroying armies. Most mechs would say it's impossible, but I ain't most mechs. I throw myself into the work with an intensity I've never felt before. The workshop becomes my entire world. I sleep maybe 3 hours a night, curled up under a workbench or slumped over a pile of scrap. I eat whatever the grots bring me, usually roasted squig or fungus bread, without tasting it. Every waking moment is dedicated to the Stomper. First, the Mega Cannon. This is the Stomper's primary weapon, a gun so big it needs its own support structure. I start with the barrel, a salvaged artillery piece from a Hume Basilisk, reinforced with steel bands and bored out to fit Orky ammunition. The firing mechanism is a challenge. Hume artillery uses precise calculations and targeting systems, but we just point and shoot. I strip out all the complicated bits and replace it with a simple hydraulic system. Pull lever, gun fires. Easy. But it needs more. I add an automatic loader using a system of chains and counterweights, allowing the gun to fire 3 times faster than a normal artillery piece. Then I rig up a recoil compensator made from salvaged tank suspension, keeping the Stomper stable when firing. Finally, I weld on a drum magazine that can hold 20 shells, enough to lay waste to an entire battlefield. Next, the belly gun. This is for close range defense, something to shred infantry that get too close. I built a rotary cannon using 6 heavy stubber barrels mounted on a central axis, powered by an electric motor salvaged from a Hume generator. When it spins up, it spits out bullets so fast they blur together. I tested on a pile of scrap metal, and within seconds, the scrap is reduced to shredded confetti. For the defense turrets, I mount 4 big shooters on swivel points around the Stomper's torso. Each one can be operated by a grot sitting inside the hull, giving the Stomper 360-degree coverage. I also add a rocket launcher on each shoulder, because you can never have too many rockets. The hardest part is the close combat weapon. Rockgut wants a proper Stomper close combat weapon, a massive saw or claw that can tear through armor. I spend a week just designing it, sketching out ideas on metal plates with chalk. Eventually, I settle on design. An enormous chainsaw blade, 15 feet long, powered by an engine salvaged from an orc wart track. The teeth are made from sharpened tank tracks, and the entire thing is mounted on a hydraulic arm that can swing with enough force to cut a battle tank in half. When I finally test it, carefully, with a lot of distance, the sound is like a thunderstorm screaming in rage. The blade chews through a wrecked truck in seconds, metal shaking as it's torn apart. It's perfect. As the deadline approaches, I work even harder. Other mechs start drifting into Rockgut's workshop to watch the assembly. Even Rockgut himself seems impressed, though he'd never admit it. The Stomper slowly comes together, piece by piece, until finally, on the last day of the second month, we fire up the engine for the first time. The sound is indescribable. It's every engine I've ever built, every weapon I've ever fired, every explosion I've ever witnessed, all rolled into one moment of pure mechanical fury. The Stomper roars to life, hydraulics hissing, weapons humming, armor plating rattling as the whole thing stabilizes. Skullcracker himself comes to see it. He walks around the Stomper slowly, examining every detail. Then he looks up at the cockpit, where Rockgut is standing, ready to pilot this beast into battle, and grins. Now that's what I call proper Orky. That night, as I collapse in my workshop, exhausted but satisfied, I realized something. I've changed. When I first woke up in that scrap pile, I was just a runt with a knack for fixing things. Now I'm a mech, a real one. I've built weapons, vehicles, and now a war machine that'll shake the ground when it walks. And tomorrow, we go to war.
The day of the challenge arrives with a blood-red dawn. The sky is chalked with smoke and dust, and the air tastes like metal and ozone. Every orc and skullcracker's war is ready. Boys in their best armor, knobs cracking their knuckles, grots nervously checking ammunition stores. And in the center of it all, towering above everything else, is the Stomper. It's magnificent in the morning light. 30 feet of brutal archy engineering, covered in war paint, spikes and glyphs. Rotgut sits in the cockpit, his mechanical systems interface directly with the Stomper's controls. I'm standing on the Stomper's shoulder. There's a maintenance platform there for emergency repairs, with my toolkit and a sense of pride so strong it almost hurts. This is my work, my weapons, my design. And today, everyone's gonna see what a mech can do. The meeting ground is a flat expanse of rust-colored dirt about 10 kilometers from our settlement. It's neutral territory, neither skullcrackers nor grimskulls, and it's where war bosses settle their differences the proper orky way, through violence. By the time we arrive, Grimskull's was already there, and by Gawk, it's impressive. Grimskull has at least 3 times our numbers, hundreds of boys, dozens of trucks, war bikes screaming in circles, and 4 death dreads stumping around like they own the place. And standing at the front, surrounded by his biggest knobs, is Grimskull himself. He's enormous, even bigger than Skullcracker. His skin is a dark, healthy green, covered in scars and tattoos. He's wearing mega armor, covered in spikes and glyphs, Humi skulls, Eldar helmets, even what looks like a Tau drone welded to his shoulder plate. In one hand, he carries a massive power claw that crackles with energy. In the other, a twin-linked shooter the size of a Humi. When he sees the Stomper, he laughs. The sound carries across the battlefield, deep and booming. "That's your secret weapon, Skullcracker, a tin can with legs!" Skullcracker, standing in his command truck, raises his triple-barreled weapon and fires a burst into the air. "This tin can's gonna stomp you flat, Skullkill, unless you're too scared to fight." The tension is thick enough to cut with a chopper. Both sides are poised, waiting for the signal. Then Grimskull raises his power claw and roars, "War!" And just like that, all hell breaks loose. The two wars collide like tectonic plates smashing together. Trucks roar forward, boys screaming war cries, shooters spraying bullets in every direction. The sound is deafening, a wall of noise that makes my teeth rattle. I hold on tight to the Stomper's maintenance rail as Rotgut starts moving the beast forward. Each step the Stomper takes shakes the ground. I can feel the hydraulics straining, the pistons pumping, the entire machine coming alive beneath me. Rotgut targets the nearest cluster of Grimskull's boys and fires the mega cannon. The shell screams through the air and detonates in the middle of a mob of boys. The explosion is beautiful, a perfect sphere of fire and shrapnel that sends bodies flying in every direction. Before the smoke clears, Rotgut fires again, and again. Each shot carves a path through Grimskull's forces, leaving craters and corpses. But Grimskull's boys ain't stupid. They scatter, spreading out to flank the Stomper. A mob tries to rush us from the left, and I lean over the rail, yelling into the Voxlink, "Left side! Left side!"
The belly gun spins up with a whine and then it's spitting fire. Bullets tear through the mob like they're made of paper. Boys go down screaming, but more keep coming. That's the thing about orcs. We don't stop, ever. One of Grimskull's death dreads charges towards us with its massive claws raised. It's a monster of a machine, covered in kill markings and dripping with oil. Rotgut turns the stomper to face it, and for a moment it's a stare down between two titans. Then Rotgut activates the close combat weapon. The chainsaw blade roars to life, teeth screaming as they spin. The death dread swings first, its claw smashing into the stomper's torso. Armor plating buckles, sparks fly, but the stomper holds. Rotgut swings back, and the chainsaw blade catches the death dread right in the midsection. Metal shrieks. The death dread's armor splits open like wet cardboard. Oil and fuel spray everywhere. The pilot tries to eject, but it's too late. The chainsaw chews through the entire machine, cutting it clean in half. The two halves collapse in opposite directions, sparking and hissing. I'm screaming in triumph, pounding my fists on the rail. That's right, that's right. You see that? That's mech work. But there's no time to celebrate. Another death dread is approaching, and behind it I see something that makes my stomach drop. A battle wagon, heavily armored, bristling with weapons, and heading straight for us. Rotgut! Battle wagon, 3 o'clock! Rotgut sees it. He fires a rocket from the shoulder launcher, but the battle wagon's armor is too thick. The rocket detonates against its front plate, leaving nothing but a scorch mark. The battle wagon returns fire with a zap gun, an unpredictable energy weapon that crackles with green lightning. The shot hits the stomper's leg, and I feel the entire machine shudder. I'm taking damage, I yell into the Vox link. I'm going down to fix it. I don't wait for permission. I grab my toolkit and scramble down the maintenance ladder, dropping onto the stomper's foot just as it takes another step. The battlefield is chaos around me. Boys fighting hand to hand, trucks exploding, rockets screaming overhead. I hit the ground running, sprinting towards the damaged leg. The zap gun hit has melted part of the hydraulic housing. Fluid is leaking everywhere, and I can see the piston straining under the weight. If this leg gives out, the entire stomper could collapse, and we'd be sitting ducks. I tear open my toolkit and get to work. First, I shut off the damaged hydraulic line using an emergency valve. Then I patch the housing with a metal plate, welding it in place with my burner. The heat is intense, sweat pouring down my face, but I don't stop. Finally, I reroute the hydraulic fluid through a secondary line, something I built in as a backup because I know something like this might happen. The leg stabilizes. I can feel the stomper's weight shift as Rotgut compensates. I did it. That's when I hear the voice behind me. Well, well, a little mech all alone. I spin around. Standing there, surrounded by half a dozen boys, is an orc I don't recognize. He's big, not war boss big, but big enough, and he's carrying a brutal-looking chopper covered in droid blood. His grin is all teeth and malice. Grimskull wants the stomper, and to get the stomper, we got to kill the mech what built it. I drop my toolkit and pull out my slugger. You can try, git! He laughs and charges. The next few minutes are a blur of violence. I fire my slugger, dropping 2 of his boys before they reach me.
The third gets close enough to swing at me with a chopper, and I barely dodge, feeling the blade whistle past my head. I shove my burner into his gut and pull the trigger. He screams and collapses, burning. The big orc, their leader, is on me a second later. His chopper comes down in an overhead swing, and I raise my burner to block. The impact nearly breaks my arm, and I'm fast to one knee. He's stronger than me, bigger than me, and he knows it. But I'm a mech, and mechs don't fight fair. I hit the ignition on my burner while it's still locked against his chopper. The pilot light flares, and suddenly his face is engulfed in flame. He screams and stumbles back, dropping his weapon to claw at his burning face. I don't give him a chance to recover. I pull my slugger and put 3 rounds in his chest. He goes down hard, twitching once, then
Still. I'm breathing hard, covered in blood and oil, but I'm alive. I grab my toolkit and scramble back up the stumper just as Rockgut fires the mega cannon again. Another explosion rocks the battlefield. The fight rages on for hours. By the time the sun is high in the sky, the ground is littered with wrecks and bodies. Both sides have taken heavy casualties, but neither is backing down. That's when I see it. Skullcracker and Grimskull facing each other in the center of the battlefield. Everyone else is pulled back, forming a circle around the 2 war bosses. This is it. The final challenge. Winner takes all. They charge at each other with a roar that shakes the sky. Skullcracker's triple-barreled weapon fires point blank, but Grimskull's mega armor absorbs the hits. Grimskull's power claw lashes out, catching Skullcracker in the side and sending him sprawling, but Skullcracker rules with the hit, comes up swinging, and drives the chain blade bayonet on his weapon straight into Grimskull's knee joint. Grimskull howls and drops to one knee. Skullcracker doesn't hesitate. He brings his weapon around and fires all 3 barrels directly into Grimskull's face. The sound echoes across the battlefield. Grimskull's body collapses backward, smoke rising from the ruined remains of his head. For a moment, there's silence. Then Skullcracker raises his weapon and roars, "Wah!" Every orc on the battlefield, ours and Grimskull's, roars back, because that's how it works. Grimskull lost, Skullcracker won, and now everyone belongs to Skullcracker's Wah. Our numbers just tripled, our territory just expanded, and standing above it all, smoking and battle-scarred, but still operational, is the stumper I built. Weeks later, I'm back in my workshop, surrounded by new projects and new challenges. Skullcracker's victory has brought wealth beyond imagining. Loot from a dozen raids, scrap from conquered settlements, and enough work to keep every mech busy for years. I'm working on something new, a custom force field generator for one of the knobs. It's delicate work, requiring precision and patience, but that's what I do. I build, I create, I make the impossible possible through nothing but scrap, sweat, and belief. Being an orc mech ain't just about building weapons or fixing trucks. It's about understanding the fundamental truth of the universe, that anything can work if you believe in it hard enough, hit it with a big enough hammer, and add enough daka. We're artists and engineers, madmen and geniuses. We turn garbage into glory and scrap into legend. The Wah is eternal. The fight never ends. And as long as there's metal to shape and enemies to fight, there'll always be a need for mechs. I look around my workshop at the half-built projects, the piles of salvage, the tools worn smooth by constant use, and I feel something I can't quite name. Pride? Purpose? Contentment? Whatever it is, it feels right. A grot scurries up, carrying a message from Skullcracker. New raid planned. Big target. Needs custom weapons. I read the details and grin. Time to get to work. Because this is what it means to be an orc mech in the 41st millennium. This is my life, my glorious, violent, beautiful life, and I wouldn't trade it for anything in the galaxy. The boys need their DACA, the WA needs its machines, and I'm gonna give them the best damn weapons they've ever seen. After all, I'm Grocket, I'm a mech, and I've got work to do.